Welcome back to DPSN. I'm Dylan Oliver, and I've decided today I'm going to take a look back at some big blockbuster NFL trades that involve superstar players and a ton of draft picks to see which team really won that trade now that we're a few years down the line. Now, the first trade I want to look at here today is the trade between the Buffalo Bills and the Minnesota Vikings that occurred just a few seasons ago. Now, we all remember this trade for sending Stefon Diggs to the Bills in return for a 2020 first-round draft pick, a 2020 fifth-round draft pick, a 2020 sixth-round draft pick, and a 2021 fourth-round draft pick to the Vikings. So, obviously, for the Bills, Stefon Diggs has been great. In the 2 years he's played with them, he's had over 100 receptions in both seasons. He's had 230 total receptions. He's had a 1,500-yard season, a 1,200-yard season, 2,760 total receiving yards, 18 receiving touchdowns through the first 2 years, and obviously they've been big-time Super Bowl contenders during those first 2 years. Him and Josh Allen have had tremendous chemistry, and they've just clicked from the moment he got there. They've just been great together. Then with that 2020 7th-round draft pick, they drafted a player named Dane Jackson. He's been alright. He played all 17 games last year for them, but he doesn't have much playing time. He's a solid defensive piece, but not a true star. But for 7th round, probably a solid return. Then on the Vikings side, we all know with that 2020 first round draft pick, they took wide receiver from LSU, Justin Jefferson, and he has been amazing in his first 2 years. He's had 196 total receptions, 108 of them being within his second year in 2021. He's had 3,016 receiving yards in his first 2 seasons, which is just insane for a second-year player. And then he's had 17 receiving touchdowns. Then with that 2020 fifth-round draft pick, they traded it away to the Bears. With the 2020 sixth-round draft pick, they traded that away to the Ravens. And with the 2021 fourth-round draft pick, they traded that one away to the Jets. So really this trade is Stefon Diggs for Justin Jefferson. It's a very even trade. Both players have been phenomenal for the teams they played for. Diggs has Jefferson beat in the receptions and receiving touchdowns only by 1, but Jefferson has him beat in total receiving yards and in age by 5 years. So I think I'm going to give this one a win for the Vikings just because Justin Jefferson is 5 years younger than Stefon Diggs and already performing at almost the exact same level Diggs has over the past 2 years. Alright, now this next trade I want to talk about is one I'm sure all of us remember. It happened between the New York Giants and the Cleveland Browns to send star wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. to Cleveland in return for Kevin Zeitler, Gabriel Peppers, a 2019 first-round draft pick, and a 2019 third-round draft pick. So for the Giants, Kevin Zeitler, he was solid for the Giants, but he only played 2 years for them, and then he left immediately. Then with Gabriel Peppers, he had a good 2019 season, having 76 total tackles, 3 forced fumbles, and a pick, but he was only able to play in 11 games for them that year. In 2020, he was even better though, being able to play in 15 games, and the stats showed he had 91 tackles, 2.5 sacks, still that 1 interception. Then in 2021, he tore his ACL, which caused him to miss most of the season. He only played about 6 games, I believe. And then in free agency, he decided not to go back to the Giants, and he signed a 1-year deal with the Patriots. So the 2 players they got in return for Odell and Olivier Vernon already have left the team. But those draft picks they got some players there, and they're still there. They drafted with that 2019 first-round pick, the number 17 pick in the draft that year, a player named Dexter Lawrence. He's been their big D tackle in the middle, and now in all 3 seasons, he's only missed 1 game, which is quite good for him. But he's had 145 tackles, 9 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 14 tackles for loss. So by no means is he bad. But with the 17th pick in the draft, I'm thinking you're wanting someone a little more dominant than what Dexter Lawrence has been so far for the Giants. He's been okay, but for that first round price tag, he needs to have more production. And hey, at least he's still with the Giants, and he definitely could progress going into his 4th year. But for now, he's just a solid first round pick. And then with that 2019 third round draft pick, they drafted a linebacker named Zinmanus. And now he was a solid rookie. He had 4.5 sacks that year, but then The second year, he had a rotator cuff, which caused him to miss a lot of time that year. And last year, he really didn't get much playing time. So in the last 2 years, he's only played 14 games, which is not something you want from your third rounder. So he was not the greatest pick there either, but at least the two of them are still on the Giants. They've just had to deal with injuries and a slight lack of production. And then with the Browns, we all know what happened with the whole Odell Beckham situation. In his first year for the Browns, he was honestly solid. He had over 1,000 yards. He played in every single game for them, 74 receptions, 4 touchdowns, pretty good. His second year, however, went a bit downhill. After just 7 games, he tore his ACL. He finished the year with 23 receptions, 319 yards, 3 touchdowns. Quite a disappointing second season for him. And then that third year, we all know it was just a headache. Tons of drama. He only played in 6 games for them. He had 17 receptions, only 232 yards, 0 touchdowns, and just was an absolute headache for the Browns, caused so much drama, and he got released before he would then sign with the Rams and go on to win the Super Bowl. So that is a big loss for the Browns. But then Olivier Vernon, he was honestly the best part of the trade for the Browns. He had 12.5 sacks in the 24 games he played for the Browns, but then in January of 2021, he ruptured his Achilles and was not able to play all of last season and is now a free agent. So both the players that the Browns got are also no longer on the team, and they got pretty much nothing in return for them. So at least the Giants still have those 2 players that they drafted. So I have to say, in this trade, the Giants won easily. Now, the third trade I want to talk about here today happened between the Chicago Bears and the Oakland Raiders, when the Oakland Raiders decided to trade away former Defensive Player of the Year Khalil Mack in return for a 2019 first-round draft pick, a 2019 sixth-round draft pick, a 2020 first-round draft pick, and a 2020 third-round draft pick. With those draft picks, the Raiders were able to get Josh Jacobs, Damon Arnett, and Bryan Edwards, and then they traded away that 2019 third-round pick. So with the 2019 first rounder, they took running back Josh Jacobs. He's still with the Raiders. He's been pretty solid through his first 3 years. He's had over 1,000 rushing yards in 2 of his first 3 years, 28 total rushing touchdowns, 752 receiving yards, and the Raiders have made the postseason 1 time since this trade. Then that Bryan Edwards, he was pretty solid for the Raiders last year after the whole Henry Ruggs situation. He really stepped up his game and helped the Raiders get to the playoffs last season. But then with that 2020 first-round draft pick, Damon Arnett, that was a rough pick for the Raiders. He only played for the Raiders for 13 games. He continued to have troubles on and off the field, and he was cut by the Raiders in November of 2021. So really a big loss there for the Raiders with that 2020 first-rounder. And then for the Bears, when Khalil Mack was in Oakland, he was, of course, former Defensive Player of the Year, one of the most dominant pass rushers in all of football. And really, when he got to Chicago, that didn't change. He had 36 sacks in his 4 years with the Bears. And in 2018, his first year with the Bears, he had 12.5 sacks and helped them win the division championship, as well as propel that defense to be the number 1 scoring defense in all of football. Throughout his 4 years with the Bears, he had 163 total tackles. And then just recently, last season, he dealt with an injury, missed a good amount of last year. And then this offseason, the Bears decided to trade Khalil Mack to the Los Angeles Chargers for a 2022 second-round pick and a 2023 sixth-round pick. So, not great return for what they gave up for Khalil, but when his time was there in Chicago, he was great for them, and at least they were able to get a second-round draft pick for him when they shipped him off to the Chargers. Then with that 2020 second-round draft pick they took, they got young tight end Cole Comet, who has played in all 33 games through his first 2 seasons. He's had 88 receptions, 855 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns. He's honestly shown a lot of promise and has been improving in his first to second year, and I believe he takes another leap in this third year. So honestly, that 2020 second round pick was a pretty good one for the Bears. So overall, I think I have to give the win in this trade to the Chicago Bears, because when Khalil Mack was there, He was dominant. You could really feel his presence in every game. He helped them win a division. He helped them get to the playoffs 2 times. Really made a great defense over there for Chicago. And then with that 2022 second turning into Comet, he's a good tight end that'll be there for probably a pretty long time. And then with the Raiders, honestly, Josh Jacobs is the only one on the team that they still have gotten from this trade, and he's been good. And then with Bryan Edwards, I forgot to mention earlier, they traded him away this last offseason and only got a 5th-round pick in return. So the Bears are the clear winners of this trade. All right, the second to last trade I want to review here today is the most one-sided trade I think I may have ever seen. This trade happened a while ago between the Seattle Seahawks and, once again, the Buffalo Bills. When the Buffalo Bills decided to trade their starting running back, Marshawn Lynch, to Seattle in return for a 2011 4th-round pick and a 2012 4th-round pick. Now, those 4th-rounders turned into Chris Hairston and Tank Carter for the Bills. Chris Hairston only started 15 games for the Buffalo Bills in his 3 years with the team, and then he went to the Chargers after a 3-year stint with the team. He could not get back on the Bills, and Tank Carter failed to make the 53-man roster his rookie year, so he never even played a down for the Bills. So all they got were 15 games out of Chris Hairston, and those weren't even great. Whereas the Seattle Seahawks got Marshawn Lynch, who in his time with the Seahawks went to 4 Pro Bowls, was a first-team All-Pro in 2012, led the league in rushing touchdowns 2 times, helped the team go back to back-to-back Super Bowls and able to win one of them. He had 5,774 rushing yards and 51 rushing touchdowns in the 5 seasons he was with them. And during those 5 years, 4 of the 5 years, he was probably the best running back in all of football. So I don't think I even have to tell you guys how clearly one-sided this trade was and how easily the Seattle Seahawks are the winners of this trade. Alright, now this last trade I'm going to talk about will probably be the biggest trade I talk about in terms of draft capital at least. It's when the Rams decided to trade away a 2016 first-round draft pick, a 2016 second-round draft pick, another 2016 second-round draft pick, a 2016 third-round draft pick, a 2017 first-round draft pick, and a 2017 third-round draft pick in return for the Titans' 2016 first-round draft pick, which was the number 1 pick in the draft, a 2016 fourth-round draft pick, and a 2016 sixth-round draft pick. So, with the Rams draft picks that they got in return, with that number 1 pick in the draft, they of course drafted Berkeley quarterback Jared Goff. Now, Goff was good with the Rams. He was a 2-time Pro Bowler in his 5 seasons. He brought them to 1 Super Bowl. He had 18,171 passing yards, 107 passing touchdowns, and 4 of his 5 seasons with the Rams were winning seasons. Goff was solid, but he wasn't getting the job done. So, we all know, last season, they traded him away to get Matthew Stafford. And then with that 2016 4th-round draft pick they traded it away to the Bears. And with that 2016 6th-round draft pick, they drafted Tamarick Hemingway, who only played 1 season with the Rams. He had 0 games started, never had a target, wasn't much of a player for the Rams. Now, let's go over to the Titans side with all of those draft picks they got. With the 2016 first-round draft pick, number 15 in the draft, they decided they were going to use that and the 2016 third-round draft pick they got to trade up to pick number 8 in the draft and draft Jack Conklin. In his rookie year, he was a first-team All-Pro, but he only played 4 seasons for the Titans, and now he went to the Cleveland Browns. With that first second-round draft pick they got from this trade, the number 43 pick, they drafted defensive tackle Austin Johnson. This was a bad pick. He only started 13 games in the 4 years he played with the team. Overall, not great, no longer on the team. But this is where it gets really good for the Titans. With that 2016 second-round draft pick, the number 45 pick in the draft that year, they drafted Derrick Henry. And now, we all know Derrick Henry is an absolute tank. So far in his career, he's a 2-time Pro Bowler, one-time All-Pro first team. He's had 6,797 rushing yards and 65 touchdowns in his first 6 seasons with the Titans. He even had a 2,000-yard rushing season. He's just an absolute animal. We all know this. One of, if not the best running backs in all of football. And of course, he is still with the Tennessee Titans. Absolutely huge pick for the Titans there. Then with that 2017 first-round draft pick, the number 5 pick in the draft that year, they drafted wide receiver Corey Davis. Now, in his 4 seasons with the Titans, he had 207 receptions, 2,851 receiving yards, and 11 receiving touchdowns. He really struggled to stay healthy for the Titans. He never played a full 16-game season, and after 4 years, they didn't pick up his 5th-year option, and he was out the door and went to the New York Jets. And then with that 2017 third-round draft pick, they drafted tight end Jonnu Smith, who also played for 4 seasons with the Titans. He had 114 receptions, 1,302 receiving yards, and 16 receiving touchdowns. His best year by far was his 2020 season, where he had career highs in every single stat: receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns. And then he left the Titans to join the Patriots after that career year in 2020. So now, if we look back and see who really won this trade, it's very clear the Tennessee Titans won this trade. They got all the draft capital. They got Derrick Henry, the best running back in the league, and some pieces who really were able to help them win a lot of games throughout the years. Yes, the Rams were able to get to a Super Bowl with Jared Goff, but he was never able to win them that Super Bowl and really be the franchise guy you want for 15 plus years with the team if you trade all this away to get that number 1 overall pick in the draft. So, because Derrick Henry is just such an animal for the Titans win this trade. That's all the trades I'm going to be looking at here today. I hope you enjoyed. I'm Dylan Oliver, and I will see you next time.
Bye.